Welcome to the channel, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're checking out the FeelWorld P6XL 6-inch touchscreen HDR field monitor for mirrorless cameras and video production. That's a huge sentence. This is the first of the FeelWorld monitors that I've tested with a built-in 300 milliamp hour rechargeable battery, so there's no need to mount an MPF battery to the back of it whatsoever. Like previous FeelWorld monitors I've reviewed, the P6XL is still quite affordable, coming in at only $199 at the time of producing this video. This is a great monitor for small form factor cameras like the Lumix S9, the Sony ZV-E1, the G9 Mark II, or up to more robust cameras like the Sony FX3 or Lumix S5 Mark IIX. Now, I've been using this over the last few weeks in the studio, and I'll cover what it can do, what you need to know about it, and how it compares against other units that I've tested. Now, thanks to FeelWorld for sending this in for review. I really appreciate it. If you want to take a look at this, I'll link it down below. Including the box, we get everything we need to get going, including the monitor, a sun hood, 2 HDMI cables, one of which has a full-size HDMI plug on both sides, and the second one has a micro on one side. We got a hot shoe mount, which is built really nice, and it comes with its own Allen key for locking it off on particular angles. We get a USB-C to USB-C cable, a USB-A to USB-C adapter for updating the firmware, a cable management tie, and a manual. Two other additions which I wasn't expecting is we get a power supply here, which charges the unit itself, and we also get an L bracket here, which allows you to attach any type of power bank or battery for that matter that has a USB-C port, and this allows you to power the unit for much longer run times. Battery life is rated at 120 minutes or 2 hours on a single charge, and I actually tested this here in the studio, and I'll show you some B-roll of it on screen. So at 100% brightness, it outperformed the 2-hour limit, lasting just under 2 hours and 10 minutes. The first thing that I noticed, however, was that the power meter is locked in 20% increments. So I kind of found this a little bit confusing because it stays at 100% longer than it should, 80%, 60%, 40, 20, and 0% way longer. Now, if this could be updated in firmware so it could go in 5% increments, I think this would be a huge help. While the battery life overall is excellent, it gets a little bit confusing not knowing if you're on the lower or higher end of the battery life in one of those 20% blocks. The beauty of the internal battery with this particular monitor is the fact you can use any small rig V-mount battery or power bank to keep the unit charged while in use. And this will give you way more runtime than just a battery on its own, running directly into the back of a monitor. I also tested this portable monitor with my USB-C power delivery charger that I use for my camera gear, which I'm using right now, and it worked fine. Another benefit to the internal battery is that it will be a lot more balanced on top of your camera for handheld work. Now, if you're ever used to mounting a big old battery on the back, right, it really throws the weight off. So I much prefer this. It's a pleasure to use. The FeelWorld P6XL has an aluminium housing and only weighs in at 332 grams without the sun hood attached. This makes it even lighter than the FeelWorld plastic monitors I've reviewed in the past once you attach a battery pack to the back of it. The 6-inch display supports HDR and a 4K 30p maximum signal input, but it will display a 1080p output image. We get 8-bit color depth, a 1001 contrast rating, and a 160-degree viewing angle. We get all the supported resolutions from 480p to 1080p 50 and 60 frames per second, all the way up to 4K 30 maximum. Now, whether you're shooting 4K 50 or 60p, depending on your region, this will still output an image. So say, for example, I'm shooting 4K at 50 frames per second. This will display 4K at 25 frames per second. And if you're in North America shooting 4K 60, it will display a 4K 30 image. I also tested 5.8K open gate shooting with my GH7 over here, and it's allowed me to still see a preview on screen. So open gate is still supported. It's worth noting though, if you have a locked HDMI output resolution, you may experience a different result than I did with my GH7, but it worked with all of the resolutions on this camera up to 5.8K open gate. Now, for those who like to shoot 4K at 120 frames per second, you'll still see an image on screen, but it is capped at 4K at 25 or 30 frames per second, as we mentioned earlier. Now, if you like to shoot 1080p at 50 or 60 frames per second, it will display that on the screen in either 50 or 60p in the HD resolution. So it's nice and smooth, and you see the full benefit of those higher frame rates. All of the main outputs here are on the side, which makes it very easy to mount on a cage or camera system. These options include a power button, a charge LED light, we get a 3.5mm headphone socket, the HDMI input, and a Type-C connector for the provided dongle for 3D LUT support and firmware updates. The LED charge light on the side will show green when fully charged and red while charging. On the bottom of the monitor is the charging port. There's also some ventilation on here for cooling and a fan on the inside, which is a nice touch. One thing to note about this monitor is it only has a single 1/4-20 screw point underneath it, so none on the side for vertical shooting. Now let's talk about image quality. So I tested this on a range of different cameras, including the Sony ZV-E1, the Lumix S5 Mark IIX, and of course this GH7 over here, and I was really impressed with the straight out of monitor image. Now I use a large reference screen here in the studio, and the image on this was very accurate to what I'm used to seeing either in editing or on my big display right behind the camera. Brightness is listed at 1200 nits, and I can tell you that this is plenty bright enough to see outside. When I tested it outside, it was overcast, but I still had really high visibility. And the great news is you can run this at 100%, still take advantage of that battery life, as I spoke about earlier. As always though, if you plan on shooting outside, it's a good idea to attach the hood for easier viewing. Viewing angles overall are solid, so let's take a look at some viewing angles here in the studio. As you can see here, it's nice and easy to see no matter which orientation it's on. Now let's take a look at how it performs outside. And again, while it's not the sunniest of days, it's still nice and easy when it comes to the viewing angles. This FeelWorld P6XL supports HDR, which is high dynamic range footage, and this allows you to preview your image with more dynamic range. So you get brighter highlights and darker shadows. Now, I don't often shoot in HDR mode, but if it's part of your workflow, it will work with this. Now let's talk about some quick gestures you can use with this. So the cool thing is you can adjust the brightness of the monitor just by swiping up or down on the left-hand side. If you swipe up or down on the right-hand side, it will adjust the volume if you are using this with headphones. Tapping the screen will bring up the tools and the function options on the monitor. Now, I've covered all of the options in this monitor on prior reviews, so I'll just give you the headlines on this particular video, but we get everything from 3D LUT support, there's waveform readouts, exposure readouts, histogram, grid lines, markers, ratio markers, pixel to pixel mode, zoom in, vector scope, false colors, image flip, and anamorphic modes. If you want to learn more about this menu system, I'll link to a video up in the cards and you can check out the tutorial. The basic overview is exactly the same. If you like to shoot and work with any sort of log format from Vlog on the Lumix stuff to S-Log 3 on the Sony gear, then you'll be pleased to know you can actually load in third-party LUTs. So if you've already got a LUT that you'd love to add to your footage, this will support up to 32 of them. Now this is done via a USB-C stick that will go into the USB-C port on the side. Now in the box you get a little adapter that will connect all of this together. This makes it a lot easier to preview your footage closer to your final result. Lastly, there's a brand new feature which I haven't seen on any other FeelWorld monitor, or maybe on any other monitor up until this point, and this is what they call image overlay. Now this allows you to take a screenshot of a scene and overlay it later. Say for example, you want to frame a shot exactly the same way as before, but maybe you moved your camera or bumped the tripod or whatever. This mode allows you to preview the real-time image along with a still shot of the previous saved image. This is all stored again on the USB-C stick and not directly on the unit itself, which is good. How I see this really being helpful is if you're doing any sort of stop motion work with an external monitor, you can set your shot up exactly the same as before, move something in your hair, take another shot, and so forth. At the end of the day, this is a solid monitor for content creators, filmmakers, or anyone doing short films and documentary work. The beauty of this is that you get great runtime and a way to continuously power it thanks to that USB-C port on the side. I actually prefer the ergonomics of this particular monitor over the monitors that you need to click a battery on the back of. It keeps the weight down and a lower form factor, so it's more run and gun friendly in my opinion. The only ding against this is the battery life meter. I hope this can be addressed in a future firmware update, but otherwise this is my favorite of the smaller monitors I've tested from FeelWorld so far. The build quality, filmmaker tools, and functionality makes this a great experience overall. Thanks for watching.